name is Osman. Welcome to this session today titled Top Business Travel Trends. I'm your moderator and I'm delighted to have such a panel of experts in this industry here with me, joining me on stage. We have Constable from Dnata Corporate Travel. We have Rabih, Saab, Managing Director of Travelport for this region. From the hotel side, just at the end, we have David Henry, Vice President, Sales, Marketing and Distribution. And then our analyst, Ahmed Bakr from Euromonitor International. And it's actually Ahmed who's going to start off this session today with a bit of an overview of how the business travel stands at the moment. We will then go into the discussion with the panelists on business travel and business travel trends that the travel trade can take advantage of before opening the floor to questions. So without further ado, Ahmed, over to you. Thank you very much.
Ready? Yeah. Here. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you have been enjoying your conference. It's a pleasure being here among all of you. It's a pleasure being part of this amazing panel. Well, I'll be giving a very short presentation about business travel trends. I'll be showcasing some business travel data, regionally and globally, to kind of help all of us build a good base of knowledge before we kick our panel discussion. Let me tell you a little bit about Euromonitor first. Euromonitor is one of the leading independent providers for strategic market research and analysis. I've been in business for over 40 years. We have a huge network of over 800 analysts on the ground who are doing in-depth market analysis of different consumer goods and services industries. Regarding the travel industry in specific, we have been researching that industry for over decades now. We have built a very strong database on it, we have built a very strong knowledge about it, and we have built a very strong, well-established partners and contributors to our research, like the WTO and the Dubai Tourism. It actually makes me really proud of standing in front of all of you today and sharing part of our findings with you about business travel in specific. So let's have an initial look over our business travel outlook for the year 2015. Our total number of trips globally have reached 10 billion trips, out of which more than a quarter is done for business purposes. Those business trips have generated for us expenditure of about $700 billion for the year 2015, with growth rate of 5%. This growth is a bit slower than the growth that happened last year, which is due to all the economic sanctions and the drop in oil prices that we've been witnessing. However, overall, it's still a very healthy and steady growth if compared to our global world economy growth. Over the forecasting period, this growth is expected to remain steady and healthy. Companies are realizing more and more the benefits of business travel. They're reaping the benefits of international exposure and keeping their business portfolio maintained in an international way. Our expectations that by 2020, our global business travel spending will reach $860 billion. If you took a look deeper into our regional expenditure contribution, you'll find that over 90% of our business travel spending is coming from the northern continents, North America, Europe, mainly Western Europe and Asia Pacific. Those are very well developed markets. They have strong technological involvement within business travel, kind of fueled by a very strong domestic business travel performance. Our high spending countries are the USA, followed by China, 200 billion and 140 billion respectively. However, China in specific, yes, the country has been facing some economic uncertainties over the past year, but still, businesses see China as the place to do business now. Our growth rates for China are expected to be one of the highest, 9%. Over the forecasting period, we're expecting actually China to surpass the US to become the leading business travel spending country around the world. Shifting our focus and going to the Middle East and Africa region in specific, well, we are the lowest contributor in terms of business travel spending, with around 2%. This is around $15 billion. However, the good news is, the Middle East and Africa as a region is registering one of the highest growth rates in terms of business travel spending, with around 11.5%. The number might seem a little bit surprising to most of you. However, we are growing from a low base, and looking at the big picture, despite all the drops in prices that I've been seeing in oil and the economic problems that I've been facing, looking at the big picture, the Middle East and Africa as a region is still viewed as one of the most attractive emerging markets in terms of places to do business. This growth is expected to remain healthy over the coming 5 years, while in fact by 2020 our business travel spending will reach $25 billion US, surpassing other regions like Eastern Europe and Australasia. But what's happening over the coming 5 years? Well, there are some global business travel trends that are shaping the market for us. Every player within the travel industry needs to understand clearly those trends in order for all of us to utilize over the growth rates we are witnessing. So, in order to understand the trends, we have to ask one very important question. Where are the business travel trends coming from? Or what's the origin of our business travel trends? Well, the question is simple, and the answer is simple too. The origin of business travel trends are business travelers. The behavior and perception of the business traveler have been changing over the past 5 years. It's changing now, and it's continuing to develop in the future. According to our research at Euromonitor, we have identified 4 particular needs that have arisen to the business traveler over the past years and is expected to continue to develop over the coming years as well. Those needs are convenience, work-life balance, safety, productivity. Well, companies are having kind of a difficulty balancing the equation in terms of providing their employee and providing the business traveler a very ultimate business experience in order to reap the benefits out of spending on that business trip, while at the same time they want to maintain a very low cost-effective strategy, which kind of puts a pressure on all the players that are included within the business traveler journey to offer and amend their solutions in a way that will look at the total business trip as a whole. Well, companies are no longer going to spend in a cheap hotel just because it's cheap, while end up paying more on ground transportation. They're looking at the overall trip costs of the business. With that being said, we have identified one of the most 3 important business travel trends that are happening right now. Our first trend is big data and technology. Well, I'm going to speak specifically about online payments. Companies are going away from the traditional methods of payments. They are acquiring services like Google Wallet, Apple Pay, in order to make it easy for their employee to have his expenses within the business trip, as well as link those to their expense management system and kind of reconciliate all the travel expenses in an easy and smooth way. If you look at the chart in front of us, we will see a comparison between the method of payments of business travelers in the Middle East compared to North America. We'll find that still in the Middle East and Africa region, our business travelers are still using personal cards as the main method of payment within their business trips, compared to North America, where companies are more and more dependent on corporate cards. Looking at online payments in specific, only 9% of companies across the Middle East and Africa region are acquiring methods as online payments. They are still dependent on the traditional and plastic cards. Well, we have a huge potential in that sense. Looking at our region, we have one of the highest internet penetration rates in some of the countries, one of the highest smartphone penetration rates in some countries, and it kind of gives us a big potential to build on that and follow the trend even further. Our second trend is risk management and duty of care. Again, companies are investing in solutions offered by like international SOS, short-term solutions, to more or less track and message their employees no matter where they are. The safety of the employees being one main concern. Here in the Middle East, again, we are not seeing that big of an investment in terms of technology from companies over services and solutions to kind of track the employees. We are starting off the road in that sense. We are seeing emails being received by employees about travel disruptions here and there and stuff that is happening. Do not travel this country or do not travel that city. However, the road is long in that sense, especially that looking at the Global Terrorism Index, there is a bunch of good business hubs in the Middle East that are scoring good high scores on that. So, an industry as an overall, we need to a little bit invest more or put more focus on technological involvement regarding risk management and duty of care. Our last but not least global trend is bleisure. Bleisure is a term that mixes business and pleasure. Bleisure is a trend that is occurring now. People are no longer traveling just for business, they're traveling for business as well as to enjoy and make the most use out of their downtimes. I'll focus on one particular statistic that is in front of you, which is 6 out of 10 people are more likely to take leisure trips today than they were 5 years ago. That's a very significant number. Over the past 2 or 3 years, we're actually expecting this number to jump to 9. We're expecting 90% of all the people that will be traveling for business to take leisure trips than they were 5 years ago. And that's significant. This opens a lot of business opportunities across the whole business travel world. As a conclusion, I'd like to conclude with 3 words as the future of business travel. We're going to speak about that in details in our discussion panel, but I'm going to mention them really quickly. Technology, customization, and on-the-go culture. Companies that will be spending in and investing in technology and big data are the ones that are going to understand basically the business traveler and the customer in a much more customized and personalized way and offer such services. And are also the ones that will be able to cope with the speed of the business travelers nowadays. The business traveler is no longer traveling to do business, they're actually doing business throughout the whole travel process, which makes it a bit different. And as I said, puts a lot of business opportunities all across the journey, if I could say. Thank you so much for your attention. Again, I'll be joining the panel right now. If you have any questions, please get to me. I'm going to be roaming around after our panel, and I'm very excited for that panel. There are a bunch of good qualities on that stage right now, and thank you again.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you very much, Ahmed. That was really, really informative. And, so in a nutshell, it's kind of good news all round for business travel. You cited statistics such as 11.5% growth in the Middle East and 5% global growth in expenditure. So let's talk to, Craig and David. Are you seeing the same kind of reflections, the same kind of optimism in terms of transport and accommodation? Perhaps Craig, we can start with you.
Okay. We're seeing definitely in terms of number of trips. There's a growth that's and an appetite that's conscientious and forecasted to continue over the next 5 years. I think currently we have some cautious optimism around the customers that we're managing at this moment about going out and spending on business travel, and they're actually taking considerations in terms of whether they will go on a trip or stay or do video conferencing, etc. But in terms of our number of trips, we're definitely seeing them grow, and we'll continue to see them grow. I do preface that if my boss is in the audience, because I don't want to have another budget discussion. But in terms, I think the whole outlook for us is really around being optimistic. If you look at the demographics in the UAE and the Middle East, in terms of the appetite for travel, we all love to travel. We're a huge expat base, so we love to travel ourselves, but we also have a culture within the Gulf of the local population who also love to travel, and that's why we have 3 major airlines sitting around the Gulf that have literally taken over the world. So I think the optimism is there. We've got a number of wonderful projects coming up in the UAE in particular with the Expo 2020, but beyond that there's also future outlook. We're also seeing trends of headquarters moving to the UAE and to the Gulf as well. So that just brings back the confidence in the global business that this is a market that's here to stay, and it's becoming more and more of a power play. The last point maybe just before I hand over is around the demographics of where we sit and the access to the populations, particularly China, India. Within an 8-hour radius, this region, the Middle East, has access to those travellers. And with China burgeoning and growing and the other Asian tigers, it becomes more and more popular as a stopover destination or a hub for global corporations going forward.
So cautiously optimistic is
Absolutely.
Is sort of a general statement you would apply when it comes to
both for my budget and also for the market at the moment. But I think, look, the next couple of months may be a little bit slower than what we had last year, but I think again the appetite will churn, and we'll start seeing the the recovery coming back in terms of the number of trips again.
Yeah, and like you said, positioning of our region is critical because I believe, you know, a third of the world is actually within 4 hours of this region and similar within 8 hours.
Exactly.
I learned that yesterday. Okay, great. David, your thoughts?
I will be actually on the same line, and we at AccorHotels, we are reasonably optimistic on the perspective for business travel, probably for the same kind of reasons. What we do see is that there is a steady growth in the demand, and we see that in our properties. There is also some new untapped markets that we are actually going into, and as accessibility to the destination is actually growing, we have natural new potential in some of those markets. What is interesting as well, and what brings some optimism for us, is the fact that one of the trends that Ahmed was actually presenting earlier on is everything around the fact that people are taking advantage of their business trips to actually do some additional activities on the destination. And here in the region, we are more and more having specific attraction that are retaining the people a little bit longer. So, to make a long story short, we see a steady growth in terms of number of people that are traveling. I do agree, Craig, that in the coming months we might have some pressure, especially on pricing. And I mean, anyone in the industry can confirm that there is steady demand, steady growth, with currently pressure on price. But we also have in the different segments of the business travel some untapped potential that can actually fuel this particular growth. That's the reason why we continue actually to invest very heavily in the region, why we are actually not only developing the brands that we do have with massive opening in the region in the months and the years to come, but also making sure that all the technology that we have inside the AccorHotel groups, I'm thinking about online booking solutions, I'm thinking about mobile platforms, I'm talking about everything that we can bring to our properties and our partners is actually being rolled out in the region, specifically in the region, including translation in the Arabic language.
So you mentioned bleisure, that's certainly a key topic for this discussion, which we'll come to a little bit later. You also mentioned untapped markets. Is there any particular destinations that you're looking for in terms of expecting or seeing that are emerging for business travel?
Well, there is obviously what Greg was mentioning in terms of Asian markets that are actually moving more and more either in transit or either in the region as a destination. You mentioned about China, you mentioned about India, that's relatively obvious. However, you see still in some of the traditional markets, I'm thinking for example about the European market, you see as well some opportunities on what is considered sometimes as more mature. When you look at Europe in general, there is certainly a very big UK influence. We see a growing influence on Germany. There is certainly untapped in countries like France or Southern Europe, where we have some opportunities. And of course, Eastern Europe, which is something that is new. There is new routes that are being opened between those destinations and the region that will actually attract and allow developing of business traveler, of course, but also why not some leisure travelers. And then you have some destinations like, for example, in Africa, we have seen some development of a lot of exchange. Countries like Nigeria, like South Africa, where there is actually some flows that are actually growing. It's not mainstream. It's not the number of and the potential of destinations like China or India, where we're dominated in terms of numbers. But this is a nice untapped potential that we are actually looking at, and where we see actually some positive results.
Rabih, over to you now. I mean, your business, Travelport, it really works across all different sectors of the travel and tourism industry. How do you think the travel trade can benefit from some of these opportunities that Craig and David have talked about this afternoon?
Well, certainly technology is the bedrock of our industry, and the more use of technology that we undertake, similarly to the presentation that Ahmed has done, he identified three things in his conclusion: technology, customization, and on-the-go culture. And this is a reflection of the changes in consumer behavior or travelers' behavior, whether it's business or indeed pleasure. So it's all about the experience, hence the pleasure that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And travel content suppliers, i.e. the hotels, the car rental companies, the airlines, are developing their products so that they are able to more customize and present an a la carte type of menu, so to speak, to the traveling public. So the traveling public doesn't necessarily want to pay a certain price for everything that comes in. They want to be able to choose and to personalize their experience, whether it's a hotel or anything else. Yeah. And that's where we have invested a lot in, what we call redefining travel commerce, our travel commerce platform, which allows the airlines and the travel content suppliers such as hotels and what have you to be able to sell their products unbundled the way that they want to sell them and their brands as well. And that's really important for a travel agency community. If you have access to the latest desktop technology, if you work with Travelport, that's a SmartPort. If you don't, please work with Travelport. And that allows you to give a much more personalized experience to your customer. Instead of the customer himself or herself going to different airline websites to pick and match and make the journey, you as a travel agent can do that for them and provide better service and better value. And at the same time, the whole industry is benefiting because airlines are selling more of their ancillaries or other products, and the hotels are also selling more products and their brands the way they want to sell them. And actually, the traveling public or the consumer is benefiting by not having to go through various websites and trying to make sense of. You mentioned big data. Big data can also be something which is very confusing. There's so much out there to consume that it doesn't always make sense. It's so big, and you need somebody that helps you to make sense of that. And technology underlines all that.
So in summary, you're saying technology can really help the travel trade customize that business travel and journey. Okay. I actually have a statistic here. A study by Focusrite reported that the Middle East online travel market is forecast to almost double in value within the next 2 years, up to $35 billion by 2017. I think you probably answered the question in terms of how you think technology has contributed to this growth of business travel. I mean, do you think it's a real significant factor, almost like the backbone of the industry?
It's very much so, and you just have to look at the way people access information. So 10 years ago, desktops and laptops were common. Everybody in the room here, I'm sure they have either a smartphone or a tablet. My kids don't know what a desktop is or what a laptop is. It just doesn't exist anymore. So another trend that we touch base on is mobile. So people are expecting things right here, right now, on the go. They want to have information accessible. They don't want to only look, but they want to be able to book, transact, and experience on the go. I think in some countries, certainly in Egypt, for example, 90% of internet access is through a smartphone device or a tablet device. So that's quite significant. And again, the way we're identifying these trends, and we're investing more in mobile technology. So at Travelport, for example, we purchased a company called NTT last year, which is basically a mobile travel platform which helps companies such as HRG, we count BCD as a customer, Singapore Airlines, EasyJet, which is the 4th largest airline, and they were to build a consumer-facing mobile app to engage with their customers and to help them in reaching the customer base on the mobile.
So investment in mobile technology is really a key takeaway for the travel trade to look at investing for 2016 and beyond. So Ahmed, coming back to you now, we've talked about various factors such as technology and so on, but there's other significant factors such as oil prices, the Iran agreement. What other factors over the next 5 years, if we take a long-term view, do you think is really going to affect business travel?
Well, there is a lot happening, especially in our region here. We are looking at one of the most important factors that is going on and is going to have kind of a call in how the region is going to face the next 5 years is security. And that's the main thing, and how the business players and how the players that are in the travel industry reacting to that as well. What I mean security is how safe people are going to feel traveling within the region and inside and outside of the region, and what kind of technology will be out there to kind of help and push more the risk management side towards that, because we all want to be optimistic and we all want to say that security problems are going to be better and security is going to be better in the region over the next 5 years. But what if it's not? We need to be prepared. We need to have a very strong technological backbone that will kind of make us feel, okay, there might be some security problems here and there, however, we are able to tackle those, and you'll be able to know where your employee is, no matter where he is, no matter what's happening. If he's stuck as a Luton in Egypt, where there is no signal, you will still be able to reach him. So that's the technology side of it. Another factor that I might put in the next 5 years, I'll always link it back to technology, because from my point of view, technology is playing a major role over the coming 5 years. The way we do business here in the Middle East as a region is more or less getting more and more westernized, if I could say. We are not seeing particular different trends happening than the West side or the North America region. However, we are more or less following. And regarding online payments in specific, we will find this growing more and more over the coming years, especially that we mentioned Egypt and the penetration through smartphones. We are witnessing that here in the UAE even. We are witnessing that, according to reports, majority of the people that are working within the UAE, 70% of them own more than one smartphone, so they own actually two, and two or more. So there's a bunch of them. And yes, it's going to be mainly about online payments, about how those people are going to utilize those devices, how they're no longer going to collect all the receipts when they travel and then get reimbursed when they go back home. They lose some money on currency exchange. No, it's no longer going to be like that. We are witnessing only a 9% rate of companies acquiring online payments and online services, but this will not be the case over the future. And even if I'm focusing on Africa, there are very strong backbones of technology within even West Africa. Not even here in our region of the Middle East. So yes, the Middle East and Africa as a region as a whole will see a push towards technological era, if I could say, regarding business travel over the coming 2 or 3 years.
And technology is such a strong theme, and I think one of the challenges, certainly for hoteliers, for example, is trying to find that balance, because it's such a hospitable person-on-person business versus the efficiencies of what a business traveller wants. So let's move on now to different trends. We've already briefly touched on the bleisure trend, which is where a corporate traveller is really extending their trip to include some downtime. Ahmed, you mentioned 45% of business travellers added personal days in 2015. That's almost half, pretty significant in itself. How do you think the travel trade here can take advantage of those bizcation trips, if you will?
Well, it's the whole trend that is happening in terms of the bleisure. This is offering a lot of business opportunities. We see a lot of opportunities appearing in terms of offering hybrid solutions to whether the business travelers themselves or companies. We see places like hotels, for example, offering customized packages overall for business travelers to actually, after they finish their business days, they'll take a couple of extra days after with their families, and we see this as an overall package. So more or less I could summarize it in 2 words: hybrid solutions. So what kind of hybrid solutions that the industry could offer the business travelers in terms to make use of the bleisure trend that is happening. You don't have to be in the hotel room anymore to work. You can go sit in a coffee shop. What kind of services this coffee shop is going to offer you as a business traveler? It goes down to that. It goes down what kind of services is the the management of the park in front of the hotel going to offer you as a business travel. Still goes down to that.
Yeah.
So we are witnessing kind of a change with that pleasure trend, that the line between business and leisure is getting so blurred out that you need a lot of services out there to kind of show you or play on that gray area in between. And again, technology. Technology is the factor that will kind of help you identify that line again. You need to know, you need to understand the traveler, you need to know whether what he's spending on is business or leisure, and for order for you to know that, you need to depend on technology. And that's what companies are going to be looking for over the coming years as well. They're not gonna understand where the money of the traveler is being spent exactly, whether he bought that for business or for leisure. So
the travel booker is really going to have to extend their knowledge and experience. It's not about business, leisure, MICE anymore, and same in the hotels. I mean, it's traditionally very segmented, isn't it? So, you know, that then affects hiring responsibilities where people in the industry really need to know across all segments.
Yeah, that's why we're being optimistic over business travel in general. I mean, like, over the coming years, especially in the region, with all those changes, there's so many players that are included in the business traveler journey that have a hand and can offer a solution for the business traveler. That's why we are witnessing as a region a very fast growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe if I can add what we're looking at with customers, and I think this is one of the essential importance for any person in the room. You've got to know what your customer wants before they know what they want. And that's a lot of things that we're trying to do now with technology, with the data that we have, and trying to aggregate what is that a customer is needing as part of their leisure focus. So looking at the demographics within the businesses that they have. So if you have a population that's got a large subcontinent employee base, then you focus the tailor-made products to solutions that go to those destinations. So looking at where it makes sense in terms of an expatriate sort of workforce. They want to go to Jordan for the weekend. They want to see the Dead Sea. They want to go to Petra. They want to go to Cairo. They want to go and see the pyramids. So it's actually taking all of that work away from them, putting together a package, a solution that's ready-made for them, and also taking consideration that some people are doing these trips on their own. Some are doing them with families. So you've actually got to have all the little bits and pieces that you can bolt on and make it a simple solution for customers. And this is why we're starting to see, on average, 2-3 days of extension in terms of leisure when it comes to business. And going forward, that's just going to increase as we're seeing these figures here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, this year's Arabian travel market, the theme is mid-market travel. Are you seeing a shift in business travellers, you know, certainly in terms of transport, going from that first class seat to that business class seat to that economy seat? Are you seeing that shift in caution when spending on business travel?
We are. We're seeing some policies change, and whether it be banned or across the board policies where they move from business class to economy class. But that just allows more travellers to travel, if that makes sense. So whilst the overall volume is down, the number of people travelling is higher. And I think in terms of that, where accommodation providers have the best benefit to capitalise on this, as well as the tour operators, where once you get them on the ground, they're a captive audience, so you can sell solutions and products to them in that regard. For policy changes, they were very resilient in our industry, and that's probably one of the key points to make. We've seen fluctuations in the past, we've seen challenges in the past, we've seen security risks in the past. So I think over the next 5 years, we don't have a crystal ball, but we are so resilient in what we've learned from everything in the past that the next 5 years will just continue to grow and develop for business travel and travel overall. Mobile and technology is huge, and again, I think the purpose of this is that we also need to look at the workforce that's coming in. They're a much younger generation that are expecting to have everything at their fingertips, have it real time. I need to know it today, yesterday even. They want to know more and more and more, and they want to actually have social gatherings and engagements with other like-minded people in certain destinations. So these are the type of things that I think you'll just see be driven that way because of the appetite for mobile phones and technology, but also the workforce that you're employing now is wanting this and needing this. So we did a study with one of our customers, a global customer that we have, and their average age now is 27 in their workforce. So they have over 200,000 staff globally. So the average age now is 27. So they're looking at things of how do we integrate Uber and Airbnb and all those other shared economy programs into their corporate program, because there's an opportunity for savings, but there's also an opportunity for appreciating or taking in the needs of the individual travellers that are growing from the typical or the consistent programs we've had in the past.
That's very much what we see as well in our business. The Generation Z, for example, it's not only about going from point A to point B to do business, and it's all about the experience. Even in our business, the experience is different. People are expecting more, and just like Greg said, right here, right now, they don't have time for, the old way of doing business.
David, are you seeing a similar shift in terms of, lower spend in your hotels, club executive compared to the standard room, for example, that kind of thing?
By definition, there is different type of customers, different segment of customers, different types of budget or city caps. It all depends on the level of maturity of the travel policies inside some of the companies. There is one thing that is being said here and that is quite important. It's about the cultural revolution of technology in a lot of parts of the travel industry. When you look at the hospitality, in our traditional market, we have been extremely well, doing extremely well with the customer from the time of the check-in to the time of the check-out. That was our traditional business model, and basically what was happening before the check-in and what was happening after the check-out was in a certain way a different world that we were not so much interested in. What technology is actually bringing us, it's actually the possibility to be talking, to be actually interacting with the travelers, the business travelers, but the travelers in general, before their stay and after their stay. And when you think about it in a traditional industry like hospitality, this is a total revolution. We have the possibility to anticipate the needs, exactly what you said, Greg. We have the possibility, thanks to technology, to big data, not only to anticipate the needs of the people, but actually, thanks to that particular technology, to orientate, to give them information, to try, to tell them to go there rather than there. And that's something that is absolutely beautiful. This is something that took place a long time ago with the booking platforms. I mean, some people just realized that it was wise to offer lots of hotels on a lot of different destinations with a booking platform that is actually friendly. This is something that some of the people in the market just start appearing because of that, whether it's B2C or B2B. So the responsibility of companies like AccorHotels is really, first of all, to catch up, and that's the reason why we have announced a year ago a very ambitious plan, which is called the digital plan, the digital hospitality, with 250 million euros financing over the next 3 years, just to catch up in terms of technology. Big data is a huge opportunity. When we are talking about, the capacity of developing the business, big data is a huge potential. Why is that? Because all the information is there. Everything is available. We know, and our partners know, who are the heavy travelers. We know exactly where they are going, what are the travels that they are organizing. And that gives us the possibility not to look at the customer only when they are in the hotel. Remember the check-in, check-out. But to look at the customer life cycle. What is the value of the customer, not today, but what is the value of this very particular customer that is coming to you today along its entire life cycle? If I want to make a concrete example. This is this 27-year-old gentleman or lady that is coming for the first time in Dubai to play golf with a bunch of friends, and that will come back in a few years with his fiancée, and then that will come back a few years later with his kids. And if you take only the value of each of the individual steps, you are missing the point. You are missing the point, which is actually the full value of that particular individual during the full life. This is what technology is bringing. This is a full revolution, and this is something that is having an impact at each of the stage that I have mentioned of the customer journey. From the time a customer starts dreaming about the business trip or the leisure trip that he or she is going to do, until the time they are going to stay at the destination and the time that they are going to share their experience. Because that's also something that is key, and that's something that has been mentioned, is the fact that today the millennials, they want to share. They do not want to have preconceived messages and things like that. What they want to know is what is their peers' opinion. And this is having much more influence today than traditional commercials and displays and things like that.
Absolutely.
Getting into leader of opinions is absolutely essential. And when we are talking about technology, when we are talking about the digital revolution, this is what we are talking about. We are talking about a cultural change that is actually affecting every single player in the travel industry, and that is having a direct impact in terms of business opportunity for everyone actually in that business, including hoteliers like me.
And just to finish up very, very quickly, because I do want to leave a little bit of time for questions, TripAdvisor reported Wi-Fi and AC were the top things that business travellers were looking for, and obviously the average age of 27, which is frighteningly young, but there you go. What kind of demands are you seeing from the business traveller?
Well, Karen, I'm going to be very straightforward. We considered standard in our hotels to have air conditioning, to have Wi-Fi. It's like, going to the hotel and finding out that you do not have any amenities in the bathroom or no sheets on the bed. It does not make any sense. In a more serious manner, today the Wi-Fi, the question of the Wi-Fi is not the access of the Wi-Fi. The question of the Wi-Fi is how can we build the infrastructure to be able to answer the specific demands of the people. Today, everyone is having, as it has been mentioned, everyone is having, several devices, and this is something that is actually consuming a very large broadband. So it means that you need to have the infrastructure. You need to have actually in the various destinations in the region, here in Dubai, but everywhere you go in the region, you need to have the infrastructure. And today, the question is not about giving access. It's to give sufficient broadband so everyone can do whatever they want. If you want to look at your email, if you want to have a video conferencing, if you want to be actually streaming a movie or whatever, it's whatever you want to do. And it's up to you to decide. It's not up to actually the hotel or the place where you are to constrain your access to the internet. Because today, everyone wants to remain connected. Everyone is connected on a daily basis. By the way, it's always amazing when in our restaurants, we are actually getting the reviews online of people inside the restaurants via Twitter or via any kind of social platform. And actually you have the restaurant manager that is sitting like sometimes 5 meters away from the guest, answering via the internet the guest comments that are actually being exchanged 5 meters away. But that's today the trend on the market, and that's today what the people are looking for.
Absolutely.
So no worries, air conditioning and Wi-Fi are all our properties.
Good to know, good to know. I think we've all seen that couple in the restaurant who are on their phones and you're like,
very romantic.
Very romantic. But that's life. So just to finish up very, very quickly, thank you very much for being here today. I'm presuming you're all avid business travellers yourselves. Can you quickly just answer 2 questions? What kind of destinations or products have you seen in your kind of experience that you think is, really good and this region can learn from? And what do you think is the future of business travel? Let's start with you.
So I'll start with the second. The future of business travel, I think it will continue. Relationship is very key and important for doing business. So the engagement of face-to-face versus digital or web conferencing will play a part, but it won't actually supersede or take over the actual business travel needs. So I think that will continue. In terms of where I see maybe technology or products that we're needing to integrate into our sort of programs, it's more around the social media again. So we're getting requests around adding things like WhatsApp, other social medias to actually make or generate bookings themselves. So whereas traditionally it's phone and email, we have to now start looking at Facebook and Twitter and WhatsApp, etc., in terms of making reservations. So I think product-wise, what's happening around the world, again, Uber is a big key player. Airbnb and what's going to happen in that area, that's growing. They're looking at how they can develop corporate policies around the cancellations, etc. So I think once that gets in place, then any destination in the world is actually going to be quite easy to get a hold of. I think the other key one is around aggregation of content, and I think we'll see that change. Whereas in the US, maybe it's more visible. Europe definitely is also on the same bandwagon. But in terms of having aggregation of content all in the one database, so I can book my leisure hotel, my business hotel, and my business travel or airfare all in the one area. I can book my tours, my visas. Everything is all together in one singular database. I think if we get that product together, no matter where you're going in the world, the booking process will become a lot easier and will continue to grow our business.
I can help you there.
Very good. It's a slight plug.
Rabih.
I don't have a lot to add, to be honest. I agree with what Greg said. In terms of products that we need to bring in, I think we're pretty advanced as a region. If you look at the quality of our hotels, our airlines, we really have, we actually have a lot to export to other places, including countries such as the US or what have you. In terms, if you go to an airport in the US or an airline, domestically, it's a different experience for those who have traveled than what we experience here. As far as the future, I think it really depends. For us in the travel industry, those who are able to respond to the evolving needs of our new millennial customers. And I think we will look back in a very philosophical way at this part in human history, and the pace of change is unprecedented. The internet revolution, the digital revolution, whatever you want to call it, has had a profound impact on every aspect of life. And stuff we're talking about, Wi-Fi, these are hygiene factors. It's the stuff that we haven't even thought about right now, which are now revolutionized. And in 5 years' time, we're going to think, oh, how did we live without that? So it's our ability, and technology is going to be key to undermine that response time, and for those who are going to be able to survive and indeed thrive. What worries us as a business is, these two kids who are 16, 17 years old in a garage somewhere thinking about stuff that are going to disrupt our business today. And we want to be the ones who disrupt our own business so that we are always relevant to the new generation.
It's about staying ahead of the game. Ahmed?
Well, I think they touched base on a clear picture of the future. However, I would say that let's remember that by 2020, more than 70% of our business travelers are going to be millennials. And
Going to be?
millennials.
Millennials,
And touching base on that, we'll find a lot of involvement from sharing economies, something I've been wanting to mention and I've heard you mention a couple of times. And we see a lot of involvement from Airbnb, from Uber, changing the policies and setting new policies in place to be able to serve those new growing target. However, still remains, whoever is going to make use of technology in the right way and offer the hybrid solution in the right way are those that will be able to give the demand of the new business travelers that we're seeing right now. Regarding destinations, I think one of the very good destinations that are catering to all the business travelers' needs is now, and it's growing, is cities within Southeast Asia. So we see Bangkok, we see Hong Kong. Those are cities that are more or less giving the nature part as well as the business vibe for people to enjoy and as well as work, and they're more or less following the leisure trend that is happening. Also, cost-wise, they're not as expensive as traveling to the US or traveling to London to do a business. We see a lot of multinationals now doing the global meetings and all the meetings within the teams globally in countries like Thailand and countries like India. And the reason is basically following a cost-effective strategy, and they're more or less directed towards those countries to give the employees the leisure side along with the business side. So yes, the future of business travel is, in my eyes, technology and the challenge of how players within the travel industry are going to utilize technology in the right way, in terms of content, in terms of data, and in terms of offering the right solutions. And I guess that's what hotels is putting their bet on.
Ahmed, I cannot agree more, because technology shall not be used just for the sake of technology. Technology is a way to free up in the hospitality time to spend more time with our travelers. I mean, all the administration work that we don't have to do, you know, when you are at the check-in and you just see the top of the head of the person in front of you, wow, as a first impression, that's not, you know, top class, especially when you are, you know, on the premium tier of our business travelers. So in our loyalty program, there is better ways to do things. There is ways to put the human back at the center of the equation. I mean, at the end of the day, we all talk about customer experience, customer expertise, the customer, the guest, the business traveler. But at the end of the day, this is a human relationship. And what is interesting with technology is that technology is giving us the time to get back to the fundamental of this business. If you are treated well inside the hotel, if you are recognized as a guest, whoever you are, if you have the impression that you are actually feeling welcome, feel welcome is the tagline of AccorHotels, then you will certainly come back again and again. And you will start to put loyalty behind actually the hotel, the brands that you are using. So for me, everything that we have said about technology, about the trends and things like that, it's everything about making sure that the people are recognized for what they are, for who they are, recognized as individual. And only big data and technology can give us that, because at the end of the day, the human touch is what will make the difference. One additional advice, it's innovation. I mean, just think about some of the huge companies today that are making the headline on a day-to-day basis. I mean, in my industry, you have some internet-based companies that were not even existing 5 years ago. And when I say 5 years ago, it's just because I want to be nice. Some of them did not even exist last year. So it means that today, innovation is driving the customer relation. At the end of the day, we need to be passionate about what we are doing. We need to be passionate about the customer because they are the center of the organization. Innovation, technology are actually driving factors in developing the business because it helps us serve them better. And that's the message that I wanted to give you.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to sum it up. So some key themes that have come out today: bleisure, technology, innovation, hospitality. So the future is looking pretty optimistic, which is great news for everyone here. So I think we have maybe 1 or 2 minutes just for some questions. I think there's a microphone at the back. Any questions at all? Just one here at the front.
The question is actually addressed to Mr. Saab. Can you speak a bit about how technology is being leveraged to make online payments safer for the business travel community?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that we have identified as a key pillar of our strategy going forward. So we invested in a company called eNet a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, and it basically it addresses the unmet needs of the industry in terms of a secure B2B payment. Because security is very important, and also it takes a lot of the hassle away from the travel agency community in terms of the reconciliation. So you want if you're a travel agent, you want to be focusing on the business of answering the customers' needs, giving them service, not the back office work of reconciliation. And when there's human intervention, invariably there are errors that can be quite costly. So I think, you know, we've seen huge growth in terms of that business, as a matter of fact. And it's something that, you know, I encourage you, if you're a travel agent, to look at that, because it takes away a lot of the pain points that are part of the day-to-day running of the business.
Yeah, great point, great question. Thank you. Any others? We are. Well, they've obviously done such a good job in answering everything. I'd like to thank the panel. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You've been very informative. Thank you for joining us today.